Hello everyone, Pulse here, and welcome to another episode of imPULSE Reactions. Now today we're going to discuss and speculate a fair bit about the newly trademarked Warlords of Draenor from Activision Blizzard. So strap yourselves in guys for what is sure to be an assload of speculation. But you know what, before we go just a little bit too crazy with the speculation, let's get the one real obvious thing out of the way, shall we? Warlords of Draenor is without a doubt, arguably, Warcraft related. The fact that Draenor is in the name and heavily steeped in Warcraft lore pretty much cements this as the next WoW expansion. It is the yet unannounced 5th expansion pack for the long-running and hugely successful World of Warcraft MMO. If it turns out to be anything else, I'm sure tons of people, me included, will probably shit their pants in surprise, because it seems obvious at this point. Now, beyond the obvious, it's really just crazy speculation from here on in. So if you don't want speculation or anything, any discussion, any logical BS speculative nonsense, turn away now. But for the rest of you, this is pretty well just going to be my experience with the game and kind of what I would expect and maybe what I'm hoping as well. We'll just kind of see. But let's start off with the Draenor bit of the name. As I said, it's pretty well steeped in the Warcraft lore. In fact, it's the official name of Outland. I guess that would have been the name prior to its shattering of sorts. And it seems to be we're going to get the otherworldly, kind of demon-filled, the Burning Legion themed expansion people were kind of expecting prior to the Mists of Pandaria reveal, prior to kind of the leaks and things that led us all to know about that expansion prior to its BlizzCon reveal. I think it was BlizzCon. Pretty much before that, everyone was expecting a return to Burning Legion and the storyline that encompasses those bad guys. That didn't be the case. Obviously, we got pandas instead, but now we're going to go back to the Burning Legion and Draenor, to be specific. The fact that Draenor is in the name also means a couple of other things, the biggest of which is that we more than likely will actually set foot on Outland again. As we head back through those huge gates to the shattered world of Outland, what will we find? Well, to start, I think Blizzard is going to shift the game back towards an official big bad, or considering that it's Warlords, plural, in the name there, I'm thinking maybe they'll go for a group of big bads, namely the Eredar, which are kind of the big generals of Sargeras for the Warcraft lore. I'm sure I've lost some people there, but essentially it's just one big godlike character who went evil, and now you've got a bunch of little underling demons who are really big and badass and also evil and all that stuff. The main reason I think this is because, at least what seems to be apparent anyway, because I didn't play Mists of Pandaria, was that when Blizzard decided to not go with a big bad or the official final boss sitting on the cover of their game, and they hid Garrosh as the final boss, it didn't really go over very well. Both for the expansion's actual driving force to the player, and also because it really wasn't a surprise. Mostly because in typical Blizzard and World of Warcraft fashion, it was revealed way before the content hit the players, not even close to when the players were going to get their hands on it, both because of the leaks and the data miners and the fact that Blizzard just kind of came out and said it, that Garrosh was going to be the big bad to kind of stave off this distaste for not having the big bad to go after. Second reason I think this was that the whole idea for Mists of Pandaria's sort of story back at BlizzCon, I believe it was Chris Metzen was talking about how it was going to be kind of the calm before the storm thing, and that with the end of the expansion we would kind of have this substantial character revelation and progression, and then with the transition into the next expansion, presumably this Warlords of Draenor, the game would then shift to this much darker storyline, kind of picking up the pieces of the previous expansion, and then it would really delve into some more twisted and mysterious parts of the Warcraft universe. They've definitely laid the threads down to be picked up. I know that Jaina's gone all batshit crazy, and Garrosh went all nuts and is in prison now. We've got a new war chief. There's lots of stuff that happened, and that is supposed to kind of feed into this new, darker threat of sorts. In terms of theme, it's pretty safe to say that with the naming and just the way that they built the end of Mists of Pandaria, this next WoW expansion is going to attempt to be more engaging with a more mature and detail-oriented lore and story progression, with clear incentive provided to the players in the form of the big bad kind of scenario that was missing in Mists of Pandaria. That brings us to kind of like content speculation, and here's where we kind of go nuts. Let's go back to the Draenor Outland thing one last time. Now, anyone that has played WoW for any significant amount of time knows the dread of hitting that like level 55 area and traveling through the Big Green Gate to hit kind of what I would call the long haul known as Outland, starting with everyone's favorite zone in the whole world, Hellfire Peninsula. Now, I personally think that Outland had some of the best zones in all of WoW, and I would be pretty surprised if not a lot of people didn't agree with that. I would be fairly surprised, mainly because they just had a lot of room to be wacky and go crazy, and just it was really successful because you had a lot of variety. The main problem with Outland in the current is that it's just been out for so long, and people have suffered the content more times than they would probably care to admit due to its place within the leveling progression. It's pretty damn jarring, actually, to go from the revamped Cataclysm content back to the BC content that's years old at this point, and because of that, I'd wager that more than likely Outland is going to get a severe overhaul. It is going to get changed similar to how Cataclysm did. Now, obviously, they don't have to change nearly as much, so this isn't nearly as significant as the Cataclysm change in my mind. It does mean that we will get some substantial change to the leveling, but it's not going to be nearly the same amount of workload that doing all of the original vanilla continents was. Now, I'm not really sure what they're going to do for lore. I haven't really thought of a good way for them to do this, but honestly, they're the devs, they can figure that stuff out, and it honestly can't get any worse than the kind of excuse that they have in place now, which is, oh, you play through the Cataclysm content, and you're on this story progression, and you hit 55, and then time skip, yay, and then you just go to the 60 to 70. So I fully expect a brand new 60 to 70 that makes sure to kind of transition a little bit better, and obviously provide some new content in that 10 level space that's really just been done over and over. Now, the next thing is the new class. I fully expect Demon Hunter. Why, you may be asking? Well, honestly, because the WoW fanbase won't shut the hell up about wanting to be Illidan or Illidan's pawn or some weird such story like that. That's really the only reason why Blizzard needs to implement the Demon Hunter class. Now, in terms of its actual place in the game and the balance of things and the number of specs and all of that stuff, I couldn't even tell you, not without just going absolutely nuts with mathematics and trying to figure out the best way to balance everything out. But just kind of first guesses, if they're going to implement a Demon Hunter class, I would expect, I'm going to guess, 2 DPS specs and 1 tank spec. There's going to be, let's say, 1 damage spec that's typical up-close melee, and then 1 ranged, I'll say physical damage, mainly because it would mean that there is a second physical damage ranged class other than the hunter, so that would take it to what, 4 specs of ranged damage dealer that is physical. That would kind of change the way that the game works. It wouldn't fit into sort of the position as so many other specs, so that I would expect that. Also, the tanky spec, I'm thinking tank to maybe go for evasion and stuff like that. And in terms of leveling, I think they're actually going to do a hero class thing, kind of like they did with the Death Knight, letting you jump up a number of levels. They'll probably have it so you have to reach such and such level cap or done such and such content, and then you can unlock this hero class or something. Considering that I also expect an Outland revamp, I'm thinking that the 55 to 57 kind of once you finish the intro bit, I think that's going to be like the entry level as you come out. So you're going to redo the Outland thing, but obviously it's going to be revamped. So I don't think that they would skip that content when and if they implement another hero class. Now, also with this new class system, I also think that we're going to see some semi-major reworks to the talents, kind of similar to what they did with Cataclysm, to be honest. Now, they've really put themselves into a pickle with this system of the talent trees, and then they grow, and then they have to revamp and grow again, and back and forth, and every time the level cap grows, they have to add some stuff on, and then another expansion comes or patches come, and they have to try and fix the mess that is their overly quickly growing talent tree and ability roster. It's so many abilities and so many things. I'm really expecting a pretty substantial removal of the less popular skills and some maybe skill fusions, really get rid of some of the ones that are just too niche, really combine it and really reduce the number of skills. They're also going to reduce the talent system, I'd imagine, shrink it back down to cata size or maybe slightly bigger, slightly smaller. Obviously some give and take there, but the biggest thing I think when it comes to talking about the skills and the balance of that part of the game, I'm pretty sure that Blizzard is going to bite the bullet and do this inevitable sort of number crunch, they're calling it, which would be the numbers in the game, most notably for the healing and DPS, the actual output. It's just gotten astronomical in this game. The scaling has gotten really out of hand, and I'm surprised they didn't do it already. And I think that going into the 5th expansion, Blizzard would be it would just be a mistake in my mind to skip another significant chance to reduce the numbers. I think maybe it takes some explanation here. The reason this is something they need to do, maybe people don't realize this, but in the actual coding and programming of the game and its systems, when you have numbers hitting in the 6-digit range, which I know is a thing, right? It's like people typically hit 100k plus or much more, I don't even know. The thing is, when you have numbers with this many significant digits, it actually impacts the game's actual structure and how it can work, and it makes the development and tweaking and balancing and adjusting the things under the hood, it just makes it really difficult for no real reason other than the scaling has gotten out of hand and we have to show this number. So I fully expect them to just really reduce what they have to show everybody and what's actually being output. Now obviously they're going to scale everything back, so it's not like you're actually going to be doing less damage percentage wise. The only difference will be what your number shows up as. So instead of your 100k hits or whatever, you're going to do something a lot more reasonable in terms of what they can use on their end, like a plain 100 damage number. Honestly, I know to some people it's going to be just jarring. They're gonna be like, oh my god, where'd my number go? Where did my damage go? Holy shit, they nerfed me, I'm bugged. Trust me, it is for the best, guys. It will actually improve the game. It will actually help them improve the game. Finally, I think we should talk a little bit about potentially like their new content in the zones. I'm thinking that similar to how Blizzard implemented the new zones in Cataclysm, where they kind of did the revamp and then attached some new zones or used some of those zones that was previously implemented and did a good amount of tweaking to add new areas. I'm pretty sure that they're going to do similar with the Outland thing. They're going to redo that area and have this new kind of full Draenor continent. They're going to expand it out a bit, add some significant chunks of land for new zones. They're going to have it come into existence close enough to the actual area that we've previously seen so that they don't really have to make a new portal or something like that. Luckily though, I think this is going to work fairly well for Blizzard, because going to Outland into this kind of vast open space that is this other dimension of sorts, it's by design separate chunks of land, and they can just let their imagination run wild with this design, right? They can just do whatever they think. They can go and be really exciting and vibrant and crazy in one area with lots of colors, and then the next they can be just really dark and dingy and scary, and they can play with the moods, they can play with the variety. And like I said before, I think was one of the big strengths with the Burning Crusade and their zones. They can kind of replicate this again by going back to Outland. Hopefully they get a little bit creative with this. Now, considering the fairly well-received questing from the Cataclysm rework in the old zones, and what is apparently fairly well done and well-written and well-paced quest structure in Mist of Pandaria, I'm thinking we're going to see this continuation of nice, engaging quests mainly the structure and the flow. Obviously, we shouldn't expect kind of full voiceover or anything like that, but I fully expect them to continue on improving the quests, making them a little bit more interesting, and get away from the kill 10 rats or collect 25 bear asses or whatever the quests are. I think they've done pretty well of actually adapting their quest to, yeah, you still read it, but the actual engagement factor is pretty high. Now that leaves really just the PvE and PvP content. Now PvP, I honestly can't even attempt to comment on what needs to be changed or what I should expect to change with a new expansion release, because I've just never PvP'd in any hardcore manner during my time with World of Warcraft. I'm pretty sure we're going to see more maps, we're obviously going to see more balance, and more than likely changes to how you get your arena points and all of that stuff that we should expect. More than likely we're also going to see this large scale kind of what I would call a kind of world PvP emulator of sorts. Kind of on that same note, please, for the love of God, Blizzard, don't put PvE content behind a PvP barrier. That is absolutely annoying. That drove me crazy back when I played WoW. Now on topic of PvE, I'm not expecting amazing revelations, to be completely honest. But one of the things I do think will happen is this continued production of larger and more substantial raiding content. From what I've seen in Mr. Pandaria, they definitely went back to what I would describe as a more substantial and worthwhile raiding experience. In Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm, they really got into some bad habits of releasing content that had very few bosses, and it didn't really seem like proper raiding, to be completely honest. And luckily, they kind of got back on the right track, in my opinion. And I think they're going to continue to do this, give us some more larger and more substantial raiding content with the Warlords of Draenor. Now, my biggest thing for Blizzard when it comes to the endgame PvE is that they really need to embrace the darker storyline and the atmosphere of Draenor, as they've said they wanted to do, and apply that to their dungeons and their raids while keeping them engaging and challenging. They really need to make the story of the raids and the environment really fun and worthwhile and engaging enough that it's not all about the loot. That's one of the biggest things with raids, for me at least, is that it needs to be more than just go kill thing to get loot. This is a problem in MMOs, and hopefully Blizzard continues to adapt the way that they produce raids and they develop them so that it is more than just that. Because I know from my experience, the best raids that Blizzard has ever put out, a lot of which actually derive from the BC area, were really engaging, not only because of the bosses and the loot potential, but also because of the atmosphere provided and the storyline behind the actual raid environment and what your group was actually trying to achieve by venturing forth. For example, Ulduar, which is my favorite raid, and in my honest opinion, the best one that WoW has in its long history of content, it really held you. It held you tight into its story. It made you just really sit in awe at the amazing visuals, the innovative fights. There was fantastic lore with that, and the story was pretty engaging. There was good freedom with the inside of the actual raid environment. It wasn't so scripted and hand-holdy. It wasn't so straightforward. It actually felt like you were kind of in control of the adventure, which obviously is kind of this false sense of freedom, but the fact is it is a sense of freedom nonetheless, and I really hope that they do some more of that. They did that back in BC quite a bit. Like Karazhan is usually the other go-to. If it's not Ulduar, it's Karazhan. Kind of those two fight for the top spot. Both of those raids are very similar. They had very nice atmosphere, engaging fights. They had really cool mechanics and freedoms going on. So hopefully they go back to some of their raiding roots when it comes to development. Also, we can't forget the hard mode triggers thing with Ulduar. I can't move on without saying that. I don't think we will, but I think it would be really cool if Blizzard went back and decided to implement hard mode triggers as actual parts of the fight, which in my opinion is one of the coolest damn things Blizzard ever implemented. It's so bland to just go, I'm gonna do hard mode, hit the button, when it was so much cooler when you were in the fight and you didn't even know. If you hadn't seen guides or something, you didn't know if you were gonna pop hard mode if you did something weird. Oh, it was so cool. That sense of randomness, or when you were going for hard mode, that push to kind of overcome this extra mechanic to then unlock hard mode. Oh, it was so cool. I could go on forever about how awesome that was. To close, as I kind of said already, I really hope they return to form with the raid content and hopefully go back to the darker place that is Draenor and the environment, which is really rich with nostalgia from BC, and I hope that they can really convey the amazing feelings that a lot of hardcore raiders and raiders in general had during content from kind of Old War and before that, and in BC and Vanilla. Obviously, they should update this stuff to have a year 2014 level of polish and refinement, but I would definitely love to see a return to form in terms of the actual raid content. But you know what, guys, that's going to do it for me. I could ramble on forever, but just a quick recap before I go with Warlords of Draenor. 1, I'm expecting a Outland rework redo. 2, a new hero class, more than likely the Demon Hunter. They're going to refocus on the big bad or group of big bads, more than likely the Warlords mentioned, which in my eyes is more than likely going to be the Eridar. And finally, they're going to continue a focus on proper storytelling and moving towards a more mature and dark theme with the expansion as a whole. Alright guys, that's going to do it for real this time. Let me know what you think of this trademark and the potential expansion, Warlords of Draenor. Am I just going crazy, crackpot crazy with speculation? Perhaps, you guys decide. But thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one.